practice asking questions. So I think for me, it's like I'm not good at talking about myself, but I am really good at asking questions. And I think asking questions leads to friendship. It just does, you know?
When you get a coffee, ask them how their day is going. When you get into an elevator with someone, just say, good morning. Practice breaking the ice, because at the end of the day, especially when you're already in the room and you've overcome that hurdle, it has to be one of us. And so why not you? Hey guys, welcome back to Something More Human, the show where we talk about human connection in the digital age. I'm Sam.
And I'm Elliot.
Okay, so I actually haven't had a chance to tell you about this, but last week I did a radio interview and it was just me and the radio host, and it was a guy named Daedalus. I'll link his stuff in the description. And he was asking me about the show, and one thing that he kind of kept pressing me on was this idea of, if I don't want to, if I'm a person out in the world and I don't really want to strike up conversation with the person next to me, for whatever reason, many of them are good. Many of them are, I'm worried that the person next to me doesn't want to be spoken to. I'm worried that the person next to me is going to reject my offer for conversation. I feel like there have been many moments in the last week where you have felt like, I don't want to go to this social gathering, and 2 or 3 times you did it anyway. So can you just talk to me about the emotions and the sensation of not wanting to do a social thing, doing it, and you didn't return from any of those events, regretting that you went?
The last part is true. Yeah. You're the one that brought up the radio interview to me. He came to you and asked you about it. And immediately my response was, I don't want to be a part of that. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure why. I think the first thing that came to mind was that live radio interview we had a long time ago when we were, I think, were we promoting the first Return of Real Life event?
Yeah, we were in Albuquerque. We were also in person with the hosts.
Right, but it was live.
Yeah,
it was
a
on
live show.
A Sports Animal.
Yeah.
And there's this feeling that I get. I can't really describe it. But when I get really nervous or when I get sad and I cry, the muscles in my mouth really tense up and I can't speak. I don't think that's aphasia, but it feels like aphasia.
Wait, what's aphasia? I thought that aphasia was when you see and hear colors.
No. I'm pretty sure aphasia is the inability to, you can look it up real quick. That's different.
What is aphasia? Oh, no, yeah, you're right. An impairment in your ability to comprehend or formulate language because of a dysfunction in specific brain regions.
Yeah, and obviously it's probably not quite that, but something happens with my mouth. And anyway, when we were live on Sports Animal, that happened. And I was freaking out because we were about to start speaking and it was happening. I could feel it. And I was like, I cannot believe this is happening. I also can believe this is happening. And then I looked at you, and as you all know, the audience that have been listening, or that if you know Sam personally, she's the most calm and collected person that you'll ever meet in your entire life. And so I caught your energy, and then we ended up having a fine discussion on Sports Animal Radio and got to talk about our podcast a little bit. So anyway, I thought about that immediately when you were telling me about the radio interview.
You thought about that feeling you had?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I actually did say no to that, didn't I?
You did say no.
I was available for that.
But I
know. I was going to get there to the other two things that I've said yes to this week. Yeah. So unfortunately, hopefully, maybe this guy doesn't hear about it, and maybe you had to carry the water for me and make up some excuse.
We had a great conversation.
I'm glad that you did. I'm sure it went great and probably went better without me. But anyway, our friend Ricky was putting on a podcasters meetup at the Denver Press Club. And I looked in my calendar. I did have time to go. You were going to be busy doing something with the ladies. And I was like, I don't know if I want to go without Sam, or I don't know if I want to go at all. And I already told Ricky in the moment that I would. And I still was on the fence about whether or not I should, text him to cancel. And you talked me into going, and I did go and ended up having a great time. And we had some really good discussions. I think the problem with me saying no is not really that I am antisocial. I think the problem is that I'm perceiving questions that are asked of me about the show that I don't know how to answer.
Or even about yourself. Like today was the conversation was strategically geared around not work and about you as a person.
Right. So another thing that we said yes to this week was something called Longer Tables. And they have what they call, it happened today, it's called the Mile Long Table, where 5,280 people gather to simply sit down, eat, and have a conversation.
Mm-hmm. It's an event.
Our really good friend, Tim, who we met through Ryan, put that on.
You guys will actually hear from Tim in August. We're going to have him on the show. He's the executive director of Longer Tables.
It was incredible. I'll let Sam talk more about the event in a little bit because I'm not doing it justice. But it was incredible. But I also wanted to say no to that because I just didn't feel like I wanted to go and hang out with a bunch of people that we don't know. Mm-hmm. But we did. And we ended up having a really good discussion. And I think the thing that really made that event what it was is that in each group, in each sector of the table, since there are 5,280 feet of, essentially there were, tables that stretched hundreds and hundreds of feet long in every direction on Royal campus in Denver. And I was just worried about the same thing again. I keep worrying about the same thing again, which is like having to answer questions that I don't know the answer to, or not going as deep as I'd like to, because I feel like I have a problem articulating things for some reason. But I think the more I talk about it, the more problem it becomes. So maybe we could talk about that at a different time. Anyway, we said yes. We went. We ran into a bunch of our friends, and we made some new friends, and we learned a little bit about a lot of people, and had just a really good time. And I came back feeling much more inspired and, I don't know, just full of life than I would have had I stayed here and rotted on the couch, or even gone to the coffee shop and read a book and done something that I maybe would have rather done in the moment. But I'm glad that we did go. And I'm not sure why that's happening. Recently, I realized you and I were supposed to split up.
I think you can sense that I'm about to push back on you because you're not actually answering my question.
Oh, what is your question?
My question is like, what is the thing that gets you from, I don't feel like doing this, I don't feel like meeting a bunch of strangers, putting myself in a social situation that is probably going to feel awkward and uncomfortable. What is the thing that is like getting you over that hump? And how can we, A, do it more often in our own lives, and also be strategic with people who are listening who feel the same way?
Yeah. Unfortunately, for those that do not have a wife,
name Sam.
Unfortunately, for those that who do not have a partner, and I'm sure there are some of those out there that don't have a partner that don't want one, and that's great, and I'm happy for you. But for those that do, I think the reason that I've gone to these things is because of you, because there's an accountability aspect there. There's also the community aspect. Like, I don't want to let Tim down, right?
Right.
I don't want to let Ricky down at the Denver Press Club.
Yeah.
I've already said yes to him. I don't want to let him down. So I think there's accountability there, right? There's there's the community aspect. If I was an anonymous person, or if I was alone, it would be easier to say no because I'm not letting as many people down. But if I'm saying no as a human being who doesn't have a partner, who doesn't have skin in the game, who doesn't have community, it's easy to say no. And I think that's why so many people do say no.
Right.
Because I would have said no. Absolutely. I would have, unfortunately, I probably would have not gone to any of those events.
Right.
And then wondered, why am I lonely? I don't want to be alone. I want friends. I want like-minded individuals. I want film friends. I want book friends. I want coffee friends. But if you're not willing to go to those events, if you're not willing to go outside, well, then it's just not going to happen. Obviously, that is the case. So the answer is you, essentially, and the answer is Ricky, and the answer is Tim. It's the people that have put on these events that we know,
right,
who are counting on us to be there.
You have some social stakes.
Yeah, for sure.
So maybe because the podcaster meetup, I did not go with you because I was busy. And so that one feels maybe a little bit easier to be like, well, Sam's not even coming with me. If I don't go, it's not that her experience is impacted in any way. Mm-hmm. And the thing for that particular event that got you over the hump is that you already committed to someone else that you would be there.
Right.
So I wonder if there's a strategy that is put some stakes around the social event, which is promise someone that you're going to go, or especially paid events, put money down, even if it's $10. There's everyone's threshold, I think, is different for what money you feel I've invested in this, so I need to make my money's worth back in experience. And some people that are like, whatever, what's $5?
Right.
Maybe figure out for yourself, what is that financial threshold that is the sunk cost fallacy, and maybe invest in some events that future you might not want to go to. but
Right.
really should, to meet these people and to be in the room, especially if you're feeling like, oh man, like I just moved here, or I don't really have enough friends, or I wish that I had XYZ type of community.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to put yourself in the physical space.
Yeah, it's true.
I think this is a common experience for people, and something that, again, Daedalus on the radio was really like, well, what if I don't want to? My suggestion was practicing having small conversations with people, which I think is maybe a tip that you could take away. You're such an excellent conversationalist that I find it challenging to reconcile that you're worried about talking to strangers, but I think that you're so good about being curious about other people. So you might find this irrelevant. My tip was practice talking to strangers. When you get a coffee, ask them how their day is going. When you board the bus, ask the bus driver, how are things going? It doesn't have to be a lengthy conversation, but when you get into an elevator with someone, just say, good morning. Practice breaking the ice, because at the end of the day, especially when you're already in the room and you've overcome that hurdle, it has to be one of us. And so why not you?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think for me, I'm not good at talking about myself because for some reason I'm thinking of a script in my head that needs to come out in the very specific way.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't, which it normally doesn't, then I get caught up in the moment. And so I'm like living like two lives at the present moment. I'm like thinking about what I'm speaking out of my mouth, hoping that it comes out the way that I want it to.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost never does. So then I get caught up. But what I'm trying to say is you're talking about practice speaking to people. That's very a very broad. It's just a broad thing to say, right? Like how do I practice speaking to people? My answer is practice asking questions.
Sure.
I'm good at asking questions. I think that that's why I've made so many friends here and in Albuquerque and everywhere, is that people love to talk about themselves. We've talked about that so many times on the show, and it's true.
Yeah.
Ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really not very difficult to ask questions. And for me, sometimes I ask questions because I don't want it to be awkward, because I don't want it to, like, it happened a couple times today where you can feel the conversation sort of fading away, and it's no one's fault. Like you've asked a question, they've asked a question, that part of the conversation has run its course. Yeah, I'm just really good at observing and feeling when a conversation is about to fizzle out. I'm like, I don't want to be stuck here with this person kicking rocks and like looking at the ground.
Yeah.
Like I need to ask something else. Anything will do, quite literally, especially if it's someone like today, like we were meeting people for the first time. Ask them literally anything. You've never met them. And if it's someone that you do know, then you probably have many other things that you can ask them because you know them, right? So I think for me, it's like I'm not good at talking about myself, but I am really good at asking questions. And I think asking questions leads to friendship. It just does, you know?
Okay, this episode is not intended to be like a I'm going to push back on you and everything you say episode. I do just want to challenge this idea. I found, especially when I was in college, I had this professor who really basked in the art of the awkward silence in order to make space for someone to come forward with something that they maybe were on the fence about and wanted to share but didn't have an opportunity to, and needed more time than the average person to like get the courage to speak in a group setting or in a conversation. And so sometimes when you and I are in conversation with someone, I almost don't even get a chance to ask a question because you're so excellent at taking the conversation and asking that next follow-up question, which is a double-edged sword. I think on one side, it really enables people to tell you more about them because you're so naturally curious and you ask them these very specific questions. On the other side of the coin, I think that it's an excellent way to deflect from talking about yourself, right? You're not giving them an opportunity to ask about you.
Yeah, that's true.
And sometimes in that awkward silence, you empower the other person to come up with a question.
That is also true. I think that you do it almost as well to a fault. Like you did
The awkward silence?
No. You did do it today where people
questions.
are speaking, and as they're finishing, you're already asking the next question before they've even finished. And you did that a few times today. Maybe that's because you're trying to avoid awkward silence too, but that also is true. Give someone the opportunity to ask you a question, and maybe the only way to do that is to give the space in between a few seconds to breathe so
Yeah.
that hopefully they'll ask you something. And if they don't, then I guess you'll just have to ask the next question, But
Yeah, I think it's very natural to want to fill the silence, and the other person will feel that too. And so it might be that they just are answering your question and haven't had a moment to think of their own to ask you in return.
mm-hmm,
And like, it's okay. I think
mm-hmm,
we think for whatever reason that awkward silences are not okay, but they are because they give us a chance to sort of settle in. They give us a chance to look around. They give us an opportunity to digest the
mm-hmm.
information that we've shared, and sometimes an opportunity to take the conversation deeper.
Yeah.
For example, we're just taking a quick break to thank you guys so much for being here. It really means the world for us, and the show wouldn't exist if you didn't listen to it. We love to hear from you, so you can leave us a voice message in the description. We listen to all of them, and if you don't want to leave us your voice, you can also leave us your words. So you can write a review on Apple. We read all of them, even the ones that aren't very nice. So we'd love it if you gave us a 5-star rating while you're there. And if you're not following us on Instagram, we would love to see you over there. You can check out our daily life on our stories. If you like seeing us, you can also watch the show on YouTube, so you can see Elliot and I chilling on our couch. Sometimes you get a little pic of Venus, our sweet, sweet dog. And we would love it if you would subscribe over on YouTube.
And back to the show.
I want to get like really into this when we have Tim on the show, but the structure of the Mile Long Table and the Longer Table events in general are curated by like the people in your immediate area. And there are specific questions that volunteer hosts use to curate discussion. As a result of these questions, I learned a few things about the people at our table
Mm-hmm.
that I could connect with them on. One of them also loves to read, so we became friends on Storygraph.
Mm-hmm.
One of them said she really loves paddleboarding, so I asked her where she likes to go. And so sometimes you ask a question that like maybe you don't even care what the answer is, but you might get a nugget out of it
Mm-hmm.
that you can then go down that rabbit hole. Oh, hey, I also just recently bought a paddleboard. I'd love to know where you go. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's your hottest tip? What time of day? What do you bring? That can sort of open up something that you do care about.
Yeah. Reflecting on this event, I'm not sure if we're helping the audience understand how big this event was. It was massive. There were, I think, 250 volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, 50, 60, 70, 80 sponsors. Southwest was one of them. It was massive. It was a well-coordinated effort. There's hundreds and hundreds of feet of table. So there's food for every, 3 feet of table. There was so much going on. And the small thing that made this entire event were the hosts that were seated at every section of table to ask these questions.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that was going to be a thing. We just sat down, and I actually, check-in started at 10. We got there at 10:15. We found a seat. We sat down. We started casually talking to a couple of people. The vibes were fine. We ate a little bit. Then there was the congregation at 11 for them to formally introduce, the event and talk about it a little bit. And then that ended 20 minutes later. And as we were walking back to the table, it was really hot too. And as we were walking back, I was like, to be quite honest, I'm having a fine time, but like I would like to leave in the next 15 or 20 minutes because like we've ate, we talked, we heard, like time to go. Then we sat down, met the host, and then she proceeded to ask a series of questions. Well, she sort of, broke the ice and had us introduce ourselves to each other, to the immediate group, which were about 7 people, and then ask the questions. And it's just fascinating to me that small thing that Tim and his team at Longer Tables chose to do made the event.
Yeah.
And if it weren't for those questions, I would have left early and the event would have been forgettable.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that everything else wasn't well done or well prepared. It was. But the point is that's how important and that's how potent questions are. Like one of the questions, I even learned a little bit about you. I was wondering, how is Sam going to answer this question? Because I feel like, and this is a good thing, in my opinion, one of the questions was like, talk about yourself without talking about work. Like, who are you outside of work? Which is, a question that I've heard many times. It's not, inherently novel. But I was like, I don't know if I've ever heard Sam answer this question before. Like, have I ever heard Sam talk about who she is outside of work? Because so much of what you do is your work. Because you love it, and that's a great thing, right? So that was awesome. I loved hearing who you believe yourself to be without work. And I just it's just kind of insane for me to process that entire event hinged on the 4 questions that they asked.
Yeah.
And then we congregated with our other friends who were at different tables, and they brought some of their friends that they made from those tables. And I think because those questions were asked, those groups were formed. And had those
Yeah.
questions not been asked, I think that we all would have congregated without anybody else that we had met at the tables, because
Right.
the conversations would have been very surface level and there would have been no direction. And so I think a good way to make friends for someone who's like in a new city or who's just having a difficult time making friends is not doing the thing that's like going to a sporting event or going to the bar or going to the coffee shop. They're not curated spaces for you to have a conversation. I think it's something like what we just did. Like, you need to find an event that is marketed really well, that when you show up, there are going to be questions
Sure.
that are being asked that you can answer, and that you can give other people the space to answer. And that's the important part, right? And that's what we love about the company, because like things are curated in a way that you don't have to show up and hope that you're going to have a conversation with somebody. Like, it's done for you. You know what I mean? And that
Yeah.
was what made Longer Tables so successful. And I'm curious to know what Tim thinks about that too.
Yeah.
I bet he'll probably agree.
I can't wait for you guys to hear our conversation with Tim. We love to like nerd out with him on the ways that we come together and connect as a society and a community. It's interesting because I'm hearing you say both that oftentimes, you tend to shy away from talking about yourself, and your recommendation is to find events which will give you an opportunity to share more about yourself. And so, when you feel like, oh man, I don't feel comfortable talking about myself, some of these questions I don't even have the answer to. Past me committed future me, which is now current day me, to an event that current day me is too tired or doesn't have the motivation to go to. Like, how do you overcome that friction? I really want to dive more into this idea of, we give a lot of tangible tips on the show, and many times that's with the assumption that you guys who are listening already have this desire to go out into the world and to meet people and who can say yes to things. But what if that desire is a smaller seed, and the friction of discomfort in going alone, being surrounded by strangers, and talking about yourself is more than the desire to actually make it happen?
That's a hard question to answer. I'm not sure I have the answer, but
Oh, I could reframe it for you.
okay.
In a month from now, when current you, who will be past you, has committed future you to an event, and now that present version of you in a month doesn't want to go, like, what is the pep talk that you're going to give yourself to actually overcome that friction and to attend the event that you don't want to go to anyway?
I think it's knowing that my present self is always trying to undermine what my future self really wants. Like, my present self is trying to keep me safe,
Sure.
which is like keep me here on the couch, keep me
Yeah.
on my phone. So I think knowing that, which means that you have to be in your rational mind at the time, and sometimes you're not. Sometimes like you're really emotional. Sometimes you didn't have a good day and you're upset and you're stressed about money or whatever it may be. So I think it's like giving yourself time to reflect on and sitting with the discomfort of feeling what you're feeling, which is like, I really don't want to go to this thing. And like, there goes the like asking questions, like ask yourself a question, like, why don't I want to go? Like, and does that answer make sense? And then like, just look at your history, like look at your track record. Like, how many
Yeah.
times did you go and then have a great time? Can't remember the last time I went somewhere and was like, damn, I regret going.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
That was going to be my tip, actually, is whether it's go through your phone and look at photos
That's a
or
good one.
journal about your experience. I also can't remember a time. Like, I have this experience as well. Oh man, past me committed me to this event that now future me does not want to go to, and I go anyway. And I have never, I can't remember the last time. I'm sure never is an over exaggeration, but in the 2 years that we've been in Denver and the many, many social events that we've been to where we are among strangers, maybe one of those events felt like a waste of time, and I could have spent that time better suited. Like, that is how we met all of our friends and all of our community. And so, yeah, think backward. Okay, the last event I went to, I really didn't want to go to, and what came out of it? I had a great time. Even if I spoke to no one, I got a popsicle on a nice day and sat in the shade. Like, what is the absolute worst thing that can happen? And look at all the positive things that happened last time.
Exactly. one of the events that we went to that I actually think I was really excited to go to was the
wine tasting.
No.
Oh.
It was what was it called? The event that Ryan invited us to.
Gathering of the Gatherers.
Yeah. Gathering of the Gatherers.
Well, so this Gathering of the Gatherers is a very niche thing. So our friend Ryan also hosts this thing called Dynamic Dinners, which is if something more human were a dinner party. It's exactly that. It's no phones, no alcohol, highly curated conversation and connection. He wanted to gather people who gather people and invited us to this thing way last year.
Yeah. As a result of saying yes to going to that thing, we met Ivan and Livy, we met Norton, we met everybody at the company.
We met Tim there.
I mean, duh. Geez, I should have said that first. We met Tim there. And at the time, right around that time, I was feeling very unhappy about being in Denver. We'd been here for like a year and maybe like a little over a year and change. And now I'm happy. And now I feel like I'm part of a community. And now I have some really sweet friends.
Yeah.
And we have done so much as a result of saying yes to that one event.
Yeah.
And so it's things like that. Like maybe you, the audience, don't have that experience right there, but it's possible. I think like one event, saying yes to one thing can lead to a community, can lead to like a multitude of really amazing things over the course of 9 months, which is exactly what happened to us. And who knows, maybe I wouldn't have said yes had it just been me, but I also probably wouldn't have been invited had you and I not said yes to creating the podcast, because that is kind of why we were invited.
Sure.
You know? So it's always really fascinating just to look back on saying yes to one thing and see all of the other beautiful moments that it's led to and all of the friends that we've made and everything else that we can't quite quantify that have happened as a result of you and I saying yes to that. And yeah, I think it's just like looking back on past data and seeing how much richer your life is for saying yes to something that you didn't really want to go to begin with, you know?
Yeah. I mean, this kind of even goes back a little bit to the last episode where you were talking about scheduling hangs in the Google Calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, if I have not committed to a thing, in the moment, I won't say yes to it.
Mm-hmm.
So a good example is when we have a week that our social calendar is just so stacked, which the last couple of weeks for me have been that way.
Mm-hmm.
I had a day where I was like, oh, actually, I wish that I hadn't agreed to host this thing because I'm tired and I don't really want to and I've been so busy. But because past me put it on the calendar and sent out invitations and committed to doing it, I couldn't back out. I had to do it. And I had a great time and I was able to connect with a friend that I don't get to see very often.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking why that's like a default state that even someone as extroverted as you seems to find themselves in quite often, which is like, I wish I didn't say yes to that. Or I really don't want to do that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Even though we really do want what it brings, which is like connection and all of the things that brings, which is like love and care and just a good time with good people, you know? And I'm curious as to why it seems to be the default state for so many people, when we also seem to be pretty lonely and unhappy too. And not you and me, but just the collective, you know?
The first thing that comes to mind when you ask that question is because it's easy. Like, it is so easy for me to come lay on the couch after a really long day and just relax on my phone and play a game and listen to an audiobook. Like, I will get so much pleasure out of doing that. And when I reflect back on a week and I see the things that I've done and the pleasure that it's brought me and the connection that I've felt, that I think like overcomes my emotional brain into my logical brain. And I look forward into the week and say, okay, what are the things that I've been wanting to do? Who are the people that I've been wanting to hang out with that I haven't had a chance to get on the calendar? And let's just commit to it. Because if I commit to it ahead of time, I think I'm less likely to be flaky. Whereas if I leave myself a night open, I'm more likely to make a date with the couch.
The prerequisite for that is intention, though. That's like, it doesn't sound like a lot of work, but that is a lot of work. Like, first of all, even getting a Google Calendar at all and starting to put the things that you do in your life on that calendar. Like, that's been a big step for me. It sounds like an easy thing to do, but it just takes more work than you realize. So I think that comes down to intention, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, putting those things on the calendar. And once you've said yes to them, like we say, like once it's in the calendar, it's law. It is.
Yeah.
And we very, very rarely erase events from the calendar. But it's a good one.
Yeah, things that I'm hearing coming out of this conversation are practice talking to strangers, practice asking questions. I'm going to make a challenge for you and also everyone listening. Answer the question for yourself. Who are you without talking about work? What is the answer to that question? Because I think that also gives us a lot of conversation ammunition when we're out in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And is very uncomfortable if you don't have an answer kind of pre-prepped. Like, what are the things about you that you are the most proud of? Coming out of this mile-long table, I didn't say things that I wish that I would have, that I think about myself.
Like what?
Like, I'm a connector.
Mm.
I wish I would have said that as one of the things that I am. Like, I love travel, I love adventure, I love connection. I am a connector.
Mm.
Answer that question for yourself. And I'm also hearing us say, make a commitment to your future self and put it on the calendar, whether it's an investment of money, whether it's an investment in social stakes. So commit to another person and basically peer pressure yourself into going to this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Find some way to put stakes on a commitment that you're making for your future self so that when you arrive in the moment and you're feeling like, ugh, I don't really want to go, you have some skin in the game to actually overcome that friction and make it happen.
Amen, sister.
Love you guys.
See you guys next time.